Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're taking a shortcut into a topic that it sounds like pure bureaucratic boilerplate, but it's actually this critical gateway to, well, to international mobility and global commerce. We're talking about document authentication. So if you're prepping for a meeting or maybe planning a move overseas, this is pretty essential stuff.
It really is, and it's surprisingly high stakes. Our listener shared a whole stack of sources on this, all focused on getting official documents certified for use abroad. And one concept kept coming up, the apostille. And, the huge role the state of Delaware plays in this whole system.
Okay, so our mission is clear. We're going to define what this thing is, this legal certification, that will break down the process, which sounds complex, and show you where most people trip up. And then we're going to figure out why Delaware, this small state, has become this quiet powerhouse for legalizing documents for the whole world.
Exactly. Let's start with that core concept first.
Sure.
What exactly is an apostille?
Right. It sounds like something you'd order at a fancy European bakery.
Yeah.
Is it? Is it just a rubber stamp?
No, it's not just a stamp. It's international legal recognition. And getting that definition right is crucial. An apostille is a certificate. It authenticates the origin of a public document so that it can be used in another country. But here's the key detail. This whole simplified process only works for countries that are part of what's known as the 1961 Hague Convention.
Okay, why is that Hague Convention detail so important?
Well, before the convention, if you had, say, a U.S. birth certificate and you needed to use it in Brazil, you had to go through this really long, complex process. It was called consular legalization.
Oh, that sounds tedious.
It was. You'd have to get it certified by the state, then the U.S. State Department, and then take it to the Brazilian embassy for them to sign off.
Wow. That sounds like a journey through 5 different bureaucracies.
It was slow, it was expensive, and, completely unpredictable. The apostille replaces that entire chain with one single certification.
Just one.
One, if your document has an apostille, any other Hague member country has already agreed by treaty to accept it as authentic. It takes the guesswork out of global bureaucracy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That really is the value proposition.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the use cases. I mean, why do people or companies even need this?
Well, the need always comes from these really high-stakes life events, situations where your identity, your legal status, something like that, has to be absolutely verified across a border.
Right. And our sources broke this down into a few key categories. The first, and maybe the most personal, is immigration. If you're applying for residency or citizenship somewhere else, you need your birth certificate, marriage certificate, things like that, all authenticated. Your whole future is on the line.
Then you have education. Think about students trying to enroll in foreign universities. They have to authenticate their transcripts, their diplomas. The other country has to know for sure that those qualifications are real, not something printed at home.
And we also saw some really emotional cases, like international adoptions. Families have to authenticate dozens of documents just to meet all the legal requirements.
And then moving away from the personal stuff, you get into legal and financial affairs. Things like powers of attorney. If you're buying property overseas or handling an estate, you need an apostille to prove that the person who signed the document actually had the legal right to do it.
But the biggest category, the one that really drives this whole system, that's business expansion.
Absolutely. And this is where the story pivots entirely to Delaware. Delaware is the legal home for a huge percentage of major American corporations. So when these companies expand overseas, they have to authenticate their foundational documents.
Things like their articles of incorporation.
Exactly. And critically, something called a certificate of good standing.
Let's pause there for a second. For anyone who isn't deep in corporate law, what is a certificate of good standing?
It's basically proof that a company is legally compliant, that it's paid its taxes, that it's authorized to do business. So if a foreign government is going to let a U.S. company open a branch, they need absolute proof that the company is legit. The apostille authenticates that proof.
So whether it's a huge corporation or just an individual, the document starts in Delaware, gets certified there, and then it can get the apostille.
That's the takeaway, yeah. Now let's get into the logistics. So if I'm a student in Dover, Delaware, and I need my transcript authenticated for a university in Canada, what's the actual journey for that piece of paper?
We've established the stakes are high, but the bureaucracy is where things can really stall out. So what's in the paper trail?
Okay, so the process has 4 non-negotiable steps. And if you skip even one of the early ones, you can derail the whole thing and waste weeks.
Okay, let's break it down.
Step 1, document certification. And you can't just use a photocopy. If it's a vital record, like a birth certificate, it has to be a certified copy from, say, the State Department of Health. If it's a business document, it needs certification from the Delaware Division of Corporations. That's step one, certified original.
So the state has to vouch for it first. What's next?
Step two is notarization. Now, this is mostly for documents signed by a private individual, like a power of attorney or an affidavit. A notary public has to witness the signature. But then, and this is key, the Delaware Secretary of State has to confirm that the notary is legit and registered with their office.
That's a critical layer of verification. The state isn't checking the content, just the legitimacy of the notary who saw the signature.
Precisely. Which brings us to step three, submission to the Secretary of State. Their office reviews all those prior certifications, the certified copy, the notary signature, and then they apply the actual apostille certificate.
And that seal is what makes it official for international use.
Under the Hague Treaty, yes. And that leads to the final step, 4, delivery and use abroad. But again, it's only valid in those Hague Convention member countries.
Okay, that's the path. But here's where it gets interesting. The pitfalls. This sounds simple on paper, but I'm guessing there's friction everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. The most common delays come from errors in that very first step. People submit documents that are too old, or they try to use a regular, non-certified copy of a birth certificate. That won't work.
And what about the notarization?
All the time. Missing dates, the seal isn't clear, or worse, the notary's commission has expired. Any of those will get it kicked back.
I'd also guess there's a disconnect between what the U.S. provides and what the other country actually wants.
That's a huge one. The apostille proves the document is real, but it doesn't guarantee the content meets the foreign government's rules. For example, some countries require a marriage certificate that's less than 6 months old, even if you got married years ago. The apostille office doesn't check that for you. That's on you.
This complexity just brings up a huge question. I mean, it sounds so easy to make a mistake. So how do you ensure accuracy, especially when you're dealing with a state that's just swamped with corporate requests?
And that's the perfect transition. Because Delaware's unique status as a corporate hub directly impacts the whole system for everyone.
Let's unpack that. Why Delaware? I mean, why is it such a massive hub for apostille services? It's not the capital of the biggest state?
The answer is all about its corporate law. Delaware is famous for its incredibly business-friendly legal environment. We're talking about things like the Court of Chancery, which is this specialized business court that settles corporate disputes super quickly without juries. It's predictable.
So the whole legal framework is built for corporate speed and certainty.
Exactly. And because of that, a massive number of multinational companies are legally incorporated there. This creates a huge, just an astronomical demand for corporate document apostilles. You have this constant flood of documents going through Delaware's Secretary of State every single day.
Wait, hold on. So the state's document system is primarily driven by corporate compliance, not by, regular people needing birth certificates authenticated. That's genuinely shocking.
It is, and the data from our sources really backs this up. Corporate documents make up a full 50% of all apostille requests in Delaware.
50%?
50%. Vital records, like birth and marriage certificates, only account for about 30%. The corporate volume is just staggering.
That really shows the global reach of Delaware's corporate law. So where are all these documents going?
The sources track the top destinations, and they are the United Kingdom, Canada, and China. That tells you exactly where Delaware-based companies are expanding.
Okay, let's make this real for a second. Imagine a lawyer helping a tech firm in Wilmington open a new office in London.
Right. That lawyer needs an authenticated certificate of incorporation, a certificate of good standing, probably a few powers of attorney, and all of them have to be apostilled through Delaware just to register the branch office and open a bank account.
And if that apostille gets delayed, we're talking about millions of dollars in business just stalled.
Exactly. Now contrast that with an individual, a student from Dover who got into a Canadian university. They need their transcripts apostilled, maybe an FBI background check. Their timeline is also really strict, but they're competing for attention in a system that's just overwhelmed by these huge corporate requests.
Which highlights how important it is to plan effectively. So what are the practical tips? How do you avoid getting stuck in that corporate bottleneck?
Number one, and we can't stress this enough, start early. Processing times can vary wildly. Don't wait until 3 weeks before your visa appointment.
Right.
Second, verify requirements. You have to research what the destination country actually needs. If you're not sure, call their consulate. Don't guess.
And always, always use certified copies. A regular photocopy will be rejected instantly, and that'll cost you another couple of weeks.
Right. And since time is usually the biggest factor, let's look at the package options our sources detailed. This really shows the cost versus risk trade-off.
Okay, so if you go with the economy option, you're looking at around $150, and delivery is estimated at 1 to 3 weeks. That includes the government fee and just basic first-class mail.
But if you have a hard deadline, you might want to look at the express option. The price jumps to about $200, but the delivery time drops to just 1 to 5 business days. And that includes priority mail.
Sounds like that extra $50 is basically insurance against a missed deadline that could cost you thousands. You're paying for speed.
You're paying for priority, yeah. And we have to give a specific warning about one document type that's always slower: FBI reports.
Okay.
The price is about the same, around $200, but the delivery is much longer. We're talking 2 to 6 weeks.
Why are FBI reports so much slower than, say, a state-issued birth certificate?
Because FDI reports are federal documents, so they have to be apostilled by the U.S. Department of State in D.C., not the Delaware Secretary of State.
So it's the second, slower bureaucracy on top of the first one.
A huge one. And it adds critical time you have to plan for. It goes to Delaware first, then gets forwarded to a slower federal agency.
That is a massive detail for planning. So before anyone starts this process, you've got 3 key questions they should ask themselves.
Yes. Number 1, is your document certified and ready for submission? Have you checked all the boxes we talked about? Number 2, does the receiving country actually accept Hague Apostilles? Or are you going to have to go through that older, more complicated consular legalization process? And number 3, are you fully aware of the timeline, factoring in both state processing and that potential federal bottleneck if it's an FBI report?
Answering those 3 questions up front seems like it would prevent almost all the friction later. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive. What we've seen is that the Apostille it's not a trivial stamp, it's a critical gateway. It's what turns a piece of paper from Wilmington, Delaware into a legally recognized instrument all over the world. It demystifies global bureaucracy.
And what's really fascinating to me is how this whole system reflects our global connectivity. I mean, the demand for these services, especially in a corporate state like Delaware, is just a direct measure of how interconnected our legal and business worlds have become.
So what does this all mean? It means the efficiency of an office in Delaware directly impacts business in London or education in Toronto or a legal case somewhere else entirely. The local step has this immediate global consequence.
So here's a final thought. We know corporate documents make up fully half of Delaware's apostille requests. So what future trends in international corporate law, maybe a shift in global tax treaties or the rise of a new business hub somewhere else, what could shift that percentage? And if that shift happens, how quickly would this global system, which is built on paper and treaties, need to adapt?
That's a profound thought to chew on. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.